The bell over the door of Old Mill Cafe rang twice that morning before the silver laptop on the window table mattered to anyone. Owen Marsden was at the back counter, sanding a loose hinge from the cabinet door, when he noticed it sitting alone, lid half open, no one at the table. He walked over. He thought he might find a name on the lock screen, a number to call. The screen woke under his hand. The wallpaper bloomed into focus. 2 students stood in front of the UVM library, snow falling sideways, a girl laughing up at a boy. The girl was the woman about to walk through the door. The boy was him, 15 years ago. The bell rang again. She crossed the room fast, coat still half-buttoned from the wind. Her eyes swept the cafe in one practiced arc and landed on the laptop in his hands. Relief broke across her face for a half-second, then folded itself away. "That's mine," she said. "I'm sorry. I left it. I had a call. I forgot." Owen closed the lid before he handed it back. He did it without thinking, the way you cover something private that doesn't belong to you. She took it, hugged it against her ribs, and let out a small, controlled breath. "Thank you. Really. I owe you one." She glanced at the clock over the espresso machine and started turning away. Owen heard himself speak before he decided to. "Hadley." She stopped, just stopped. Her shoulders set, then slowly came around. She studied his face the way someone studies a word they used to know in another language. "I'm sorry," she said. "Careful." "Do we, Owen? I work here some mornings. Fix things, mostly." He nodded at the laptop, then at the door. "You're Northbridge Design, right? Saw your photo in the Free Press last spring." "I'm the CEO. Yes." A small, professional smile. Her eyes hadn't left his. "Owen what?" "Just Owen. Handyman, carpenter, whatever the day needs." He watched her almost get there. Her brow tightened the way water tightens before it freezes. Then her phone buzzed against the laptop and she flinched, and the moment slid sideways. She looked down, looked up. The professional surface was back. "I'm late for a board meeting. Thank you again. Truly." She was through the door before he could answer. He saw her car through the window, a clean dark sedan. He saw her turn the key. Nothing. She tried again. Nothing. She got out and stood with one hand on the roof, jaw tight. Owen pulled his work gloves out of his back pocket and went out. "Battery," he said, when he had the hood up. "You've got a cell loose." He tightened it with the multi-tool from his belt. He asked her to try again. The engine caught on the second turn. 3 minutes had passed. Maybe 4. The wind off Lake Champlain came in through the alley between the buildings and pushed her hair across her face. Neither of them said anything for most of it. "Coffee," she said when the engine was running. "Tomorrow. On me. As a thank you. You don't owe me coffee." "I think I do. Drive safe, Hadley." She looked at him one more time. She almost said something. Then she got in the car. Inside, on the table where the laptop had been, she had left a business card. Hadley Linwood, Chief Executive Officer, Northbridge Design. He picked it up, turned it over once, and slid it into the apron pocket where he kept screws. That evening, the house above the lake smelled like butter and salt. Juno was at the kitchen island with a wood spoon in one fist and a library book open under her elbow. "Dad, the pasta is doing the thing." "Stir, Kit." "I am stirring. It's still doing the thing." He came around behind her, eased the heat down, took the spoon from her, and handed it back. She gave him the serious look she'd inherited from her mother, the one that meant she was about to ask a question with a hook in it. "Mrs. Alvarez said I read above grade level. Does that mean I can read at lunch?" "It means you can read at lunch on Wednesdays." "Why Wednesdays?" "Because Wednesdays are slow." She accepted that with a nod, as if it were a known fact about the universe. They ate at the counter because the table had blueprints on it that he hadn't moved in months. He listened to her describe a girl named Pia who could whistle through her teeth. He laughed when he was supposed to. After she was in bed, he stood in the kitchen with the dish towel over his shoulder. He took the business card out of the apron and looked at it for a long time. Then he opened the bottom drawer of the desk, the one with the old film negatives and the unopened mail, and dropped the card inside and pushed the drawer shut with his hip. He did not turn the lamp off for another hour. Hadley got back to Northbridge 90 minutes late. The boardroom was empty by the time she walked past it. Margot Beale was at her desk outside Hadley's office. glasses pushed up onto her hair, 2 mugs in front of her, both gone cold. You missed Adirondack Prelum. I covered. I owe you. You owe me coffee that isn't from the lobby. Hadley set the laptop down on Margot's desk, instead of carrying it through to her own office. Margot looked at her over the top of the glasses. You all right? Margot. Hadley's voice was even. Does the name Owen Marsden mean anything to you? Margot's hand stopped moving above her keyboard. She did not look up at first. When she did, her face had gone careful in a way Hadley had only seen twice in 15 years. He's in Burlington? Apparently he fixes hinges at a coffee shop on Pine Street. Margot pushed her glasses down onto her nose, then back up, then off entirely. She set them on the desk between them like a small, surrendered object. Hadley, sit down. I'm fine standing. Sit down. Hadley sat. Margot folded her hands. Owen Marsden didn't disappear. He withdrew after his wife died, 4 winters ago. He sold his stake in Marsden and Hale, declined every interview, dropped off the AIA committee circuit, and went somewhere with his daughter. I tried for you, 2 private investigators, 1 in Boston, 1 in New Haven. Both came back with nothing. Marsden and Hale. Boston Harbor Tower. The Wellesley Library Annex. The Albany Performing Arts renovation. Pritzker shortlist. 2019. Hadley said nothing for a long beat. He told me he was a handyman. He is, Margot said. Now, he just used to be something else. Across town, Owen was at his kitchen sink with the water running over the same plate he had already washed. He turned the tap off. He went back to the drawer. He opened it. He looked at the card. He did not pick it up. He closed the drawer again, sat down at the table, slid a sheet of newsprint under his hand, and began to sketch. Within 4 minutes, he had drawn a clean cross-section of an A-frame, load-bearing ridge beam, twin king posts, a clerestory at the north face for winter light. The hand had not forgotten anything. He looked at it for a long time. Then he turned the paper over and went to bed. In Hadley's office, the door opened without a knock. Spencer Voren walked in already mid-sentence. We have a problem with Adirondack. Adirondack is fine. Adirondack requires a named signature architect on the federal grant paperwork by Friday close. You don't have one. Without one, the grant defaults, and the contract walks. We have Bremer. Bremer pulled out this morning. Family thing. I was going to mention it. A pause that was not a pause. I've taken the liberty. Kessler at Halverson is willing to sign. He's available. Generous of him, given the timeline. Kessler. Halverson. The competing firm. Hadley looked at Spencer for a long moment. He smiled. The trap was very polite. It was very well lit. Thank you, Spencer. I'll consider it. He left. She did not move for almost a minute. Then she walked out to Margot's desk. Margot was already standing. He's never been gone, Hadley. Margot's voice was lower than usual, almost gentle. He's just been somewhere he didn't want to be found. Hadley did not say anything. She walked back into her office. She closed the door. She put her forehead against it for a count of 3. Then, she went to her desk and started writing on a yellow pad with a very steady hand. She found the receipt in her coat pocket at 6 the next morning. Old Mill Cafe, Pine Street, $2.75, drip coffee. Paid Tuesday. She drove there with the receipt on the passenger seat. The cafe was open. He was behind the counter, sleeves to the elbow, walking a regular through a cortado. He looked up when the bell rang. He didn't seem surprised. 2 minutes, he said to the man at the counter, and then, to her, sit anywhere. She sat at the window table. The same one. He came over with a small coffee she hadn't ordered and set it down on the house. I came to ask you something, I figured. She put a rolled tube of paper on the table between them. He looked at it without touching it. There's a project, she said. Adirondack headquarters. Mixed timber and steel. North face. 60,000 square feet. We have the team. We have the permits. We have the client. We do not have a signature architect on the federal grant paperwork by Friday, or we lose it. I'm not that anymore, Hadley. You don't have to sign. I'm not asking you to sign. I'm asking you to look. She unrolled the prelim. Site plan. Envelope. The first elevation. She turned it so he could read it right side up. He did not look down at the paper. He looked at her. I'm not that anymore, he said again. Quieter. I haven't drawn a building anyone could live in for 4 years. I know. Then why? Because there is no one else I would ask. He held her eyes for a long moment. Then he looked down at the paper. He looked at it the way an old musician looks at a piano he gave away. 30 seconds. 40. He did not pick up a pen. Leave it, he said. Just leave it. I'll look. I won't sign. I didn't ask you to sign. You did. You just did it kindly. A short, almost smile on her side. She stood. She left the tube on the table. She did not look back when she walked out. Owen folded the drawing twice and slid it under the counter where the receipt book lived. At 3:40 in the afternoon, Juno came in through the back, backpack thumping. Early dismissal. She set the bag on a chair, climbed onto a stool, and started wiping the counter without being asked, which was how she negotiated for Coco. She found the drawing while she was wiping under the receipt book. Dad, this is pretty. Who drew this? He didn't turn. He was running the milk steamer. Someone I used to know. They draw nice. Yes, they do. Is it a building? It's a building. Can we make one like that someday? He turned the steamer off. He looked at his daughter. Her bangs were stuck to her forehead. She had a smear of marker on her chin. Maybe. That night, after she was asleep, he sat at the kitchen table and opened the bottom drawer of the desk all the way out and set it on the floor. Beneath the unopened mail, there was a manila envelope with the corners gone soft. Inside the envelope, a stack of small film prints from a camera his father had given him at 18. He went through them slowly. A dorm hallway, the bell tower at midnight, a friend who had died in 2015, the Winooski in late winter. Then the one he was looking for, 2 students in front of the UVM library, snow falling sideways, a girl laughing up at a boy. He had taken nothing from his old life when he left Boston. Almost nothing. He had taken this. He put it back in the envelope. He put the envelope back in the drawer. He did not sleep. The club was 20 minutes outside Burlington, on a road that turned to gravel for the last half-mile. Spencer Voren sat in a low leather chair with 2 board members across from him, drinks they were not drinking on the table between them. She built this firm, the older one said. He was named Halloran. He had been on the board for 11 years, from the studio over the hardware store. I was there. I signed the first lease, and I respect that. Spencer set down a manila folder, which is why we owe her a clean exit, not a forced one, not a public one. Just a quiet step aside before something messier surfaces. He opened the folder. Inside, a photocopy of a UVM student newspaper from spring 2008, a short item, 3 paragraphs. Headline reading, Senior Thesis Submission Raises Questions in Architecture Program. She missed her thesis deadline that spring. Under circumstances the paper called, and I quote, suspicious. She got the degree on a late submission no one will explain. That was 18 years ago. It will be picked up tomorrow morning by a freelance reporter at the Burlington Sentinel. The story will run Thursday. Spencer, I am not writing the story. I am simply aware of it. The second board member, a younger woman named Trang, leaned back. And the timing with the Adirondack signature deadline is a coincidence. Of course, Halloran looked at the photocopy for a long time. She built this firm from nothing. Spencer then let her leave it the same way. Halloran did not answer. He folded the photocopy in half and slid it back across the table. Spencer left it there. That afternoon, Hadley walked into Old Mill Cafe without an appointment. The light through the window was the kind of light that only happens in Vermont in November, low and the color of brass. Owen was at the back table with a pencil, sketching something on the back of a paper bag. She sat down across from him without asking. He didn't look up for a few seconds. When he did, he closed the bag over the drawing. I'm not here about the project. Okay. She ordered tea she didn't want. He brought it. He sat back down. They talked about winter, about the year the lake froze all the way across, about a bakery on College Street that made a cinnamon thing she could never finish in one sitting. He told her about a contractor in Stowe who refused to work with anyone who wore khakis. She laughed once, short, and surprised at herself. There was a silence. Not awkward. The other kind. My wife's name was Anna, he said. He said it to the window, Not to her. She died in 2022. A car accident on the interstate north of Springfield. Juno was 4. Hadley did not say she was sorry. She knew he would not have wanted that. My brother's name was Henry, she said. He died the same year, in April. Cancer, that wasn't supposed to be the kind that does that. He turned his face slightly toward her. 2022 was a bad year for both of us. Yes. The silence after that was longer. Neither of them filled it. Outside, a delivery truck reversed past the window and beeped twice and pulled away. She finished the tea she didn't want. She stood. "I'll see you," she said. "Yes," he said. She left the bag with the drawing on the table when she went. He brought the rolled prelim to Northbridge the next morning at 7:30 and a canvas tube under his arm. The receptionist did not know what to do with him. He gave her his name. She made a call. Hadley was at the lobby elevator inside 90 seconds. He set the conditions in the elevator. Structural envelope only. Roof loads. Wind loads. The north face. "I'll sit with your structural lead. I'll mark up. I won't sign the permit. I won't sit for press." Agreed. "And no one outside this firm hears my last name in connection with this project until the federal paperwork is in." Agreed. They worked in a small conference room with a long window onto the lake. Day 1, he barely spoke. He drew. Day 2, Hadley pulled up a stool beside him at the light table and asked questions a CEO does not normally ask a consultant, about why he was widening the cantilever a foot at the northeast corner. Day 3, Margot came in with 2 coffees and stopped just inside the door. Owen was leaning over the table, pencil in his teeth, pointing at a load diagram. Hadley was leaning in next to him, close enough that her shoulder was an inch from his. They were not touching. They were standing the way 2 people stand when they have forgotten to keep the regulation distance. Margot set the coffees down on the side counter, smiled at no one in particular, and went out. That afternoon, Juno was in the lobby when Hadley came down. The receptionist had given her a chair and a stack of paper and let her draw. Owen had been called away to a quick call with the structural lead. Hadley saw the kid before the kid saw her. She sat down 2 chairs over. She did not introduce herself. "You're holding the pencil pretty far up." Juno looked at her sideways. "I know. You don't have to. Move it down here." She demonstrated on her own pen. "And let it roll between these 2 fingers when you turn the line. It'll do the curve for you." Juno tried it. The curve came out cleaner. She looked at her own hand like it had betrayed her. "What?" "That's how my brother taught me." Juno examined her for a long moment. "Did you know my mom?" Hadley did not flinch. She thought about it carefully before she answered. "I didn't. I'm sorry. But I'm sure she was very proud of you." Juno considered this. She went back to drawing. She made a small, clean curve. Then, without looking up, she said, "My dad doesn't smile when he draws anymore. He smiled today." Hadley did not answer that. She did not trust her voice. She sat with the girl for another minute. Then Owen came around the corner and stopped, and looked at the 2 of them sitting 2 chairs apart with a stack of drawings between them, and didn't say anything either. That night, alone in her office with the lights off, Hadley opened her laptop. The wallpaper came up. She moved her finger across the trackpad slowly, and the cursor drifted across the photograph. She rested her fingertip on the glass over the face of the boy in the snow. She spoke, almost not out loud. "You pulled me out of a river before you knew my name. 15 years. I never stopped looking." The story broke Thursday morning at 6:15. Burlington Sentinel. Online first, then the print edition by 8. Burlington CEO and the 2008 thesis scandal. Halfway down the second paragraph, the word plagiarism. By 9, 2 local TV stations had picked it up. By 10, a national design industry blog had it under a smaller headline. By 11, the board had called an emergency meeting for Friday morning. Hadley did not issue a statement. She stood at her office window with her arms folded and watched the lake. Owen came in at noon. He had seen the story on his phone in the truck. He did not knock. Margot let him through. He did not ask her if it was true. He did not ask what the article meant. He stopped just inside the door. "Are you okay?" She did not turn from the window. "I'm thinking." "Okay." He stood with her. He did not fill the air. The door opened behind them. Margot stepped in and closed it. She did not sit. She stood with her back to the door, and she folded her hands at her waist in a way Hadley had seen her do exactly twice in 15 years, both times before saying something she did not want to say. I have to tell him. Hadley turned. Margot, I have kept it because you asked me to. I am breaking it now, because if I don't, he's going to keep blaming himself for nothing, and you're going to lose this firm for nothing, and I am too old to watch both of those things at once. She turned to Owen. In February of 2008, there was a party on the north bank of the Winooski, below the rail bridge. You weren't there. She was. Someone put something in a drink. She walked away from the fire to clear her head. She slipped on the bank. She went into the river. Owen had gone very still. A first-year architecture student was walking the trail home from the studio. He heard the splash. He went in after her. He got her to the bank. He took off his coat and put it on her. He carried her up to the road, and he flagged down a campus security car, and he rode with her to St. Mary's. He sat in the waiting room until 4 in the morning, until her family came in from Montpelier, and then he left without giving his name. The intake record at St. Mary's lists the rescuer as a passerby. I have a copy of that record. She paused. That student was you, Owen. Owen did not speak. Hadley spent 12 days in the hospital with hypothermia complications. She missed her senior thesis review window. I sat up with her for 2 nights in her dorm and helped her reconstruct her notes from memory. The paper that came out the following spring did not know any of that. They wrote what they wrote. The university chose not to correct it. She let it stand because she did not want her mother to know how close it had been. Margot looked at Hadley. Hadley nodded once. The photograph, Margot said. The one on her wallpaper. It was taken 1 week after she came home from the hospital. He came by the dorm to drop off a book. Her roommate took the picture from the second-floor window without asking. A week after that, he left for an internship in Boston. They did not see each other again. The room was very quiet. Owen put a hand flat on the back of the chair in front of him. He did not sit down. He looked at Hadley. I didn't know you'd been looking. I hired 2 people after Anna died. I thought if anyone ever needed someone not to be lost, it was him. They couldn't find you. I was here. I know that now. I didn't know it was you. In the water. His voice was rough. I didn't see your face. It was dark. I didn't know. I know, she said. That's the whole point. You didn't know it was me. You went in anyway. The board meeting was at 8 Friday morning. 8 chairs around the long walnut table on the 14th floor. Coffee. No one was drinking. Spencer Voron at the head of the table, in a navy suit, with a thin folder squared neatly in front of him. Hadley walked in at 7:59. She was steadier than the room expected. Behind her, Owen Marsden, in a gray blazer with no maker's label inside the collar, carrying a worn leather portfolio under his arm. Spencer looked up. His mouth made the small, private smile he made when he thought he had already won. And who is this? Owen did not answer Spencer. He set the portfolio on the table. He turned it to face the board. He opened it. AIA membership. Current. RIBA chartered status. The official Pritzker shortlist letter. 2019. With the embossed seal. 3 published portfolio pages. Boston Harbor Tower. The Wellesley Annex. The Albany renovation. He spoke to the board, not to Spencer. My name is Owen Marsden. I'm a founding partner of Marsden and Hale Architecture, on an active status since 2022. Halloran, at the other end of the table, leaned forward without meaning to. Trang, 2 seats down, said one word under her breath to the woman beside her. Federal. Marsden and Hale was one of 5 firms in the United States whose name on a federal grant unlocked the Adirondack tier automatically. Everyone in the room who needed to know that knew it. Owen said, I will sign the Adirondack headquarters as named signature architect on the federal grant paperwork. Conditions. The design team of record is Northbridge Design. The credit on all marketing, all press, all plaques, all built signage is Northbridge Design. I will not appear at the ribbon cutting. My fee for the project is $1. The silence was so complete, you could hear the building's HVAC. Spencer Voron found his voice. This is theater. Owen turned his head slowly. He looked at Spencer for the first time. He did not raise his voice. "You've never built anything in your life. You only take." He turned back to the board, as if Spencer were no longer in the room. "My contract is in the portfolio. Council can review it this morning." Hadley took over from there. She walked the board through Adirondack, the timeline, the grant, the build phases, the revenue model. 22 minutes. She did not mention the article. She did not mention Spencer. When the vote came, Halloran moved to approve. Trang seconded. Adirondack passed 7-1. Spencer's prepared motion of no confidence was never read. He withdrew it before the chair could call it. The hallway outside was empty when they came out. The board was still inside, talking. Margot was somewhere on the floor below, on the phone with the firm's general counsel. Hadley and Owen stood near the window at the end of the hall. The lake was the color of slate. Neither of them spoke for almost a full minute. "You didn't have to do that," she said finally, very quietly. "I didn't do it for the company." She looked at him. "I did it for you." She didn't answer. She didn't need to. She put her hand flat against the window for a moment, and then she let it fall. They stood there, not touching, until Margot came up the stairs to get them. The audit took 2 days. The firm's general counsel and an outside investigator went through Spencer's expense filings, his outside communications, and a small chain of wire transfers to a freelance reporter at the Sentinel. The article had been bought. By Tuesday afternoon, Spencer Voren had resigned. The press release was short. The board released a separate statement noting that the underlying premise of the Sentinel article had been based on a misreading of the public record, and that no academic action had ever been taken against Hadley Linwood by the University of Vermont. The Sentinel printed a retraction Wednesday on page 3. By Thursday, the story in the design press was different. CEO and the architect who came back. A trade journal in Chicago wrote that Marsden and Hale's silent return to a single Vermont project was the architecture story of the year. Owen did not return any of the calls. Margot caught Hadley alone in her office Thursday evening. "He's been here almost 2 years. Where?" "Burlington. The house he's renting was a 6-month sublet that he extended 3 times. I checked. He told the landlord he wanted to be somewhere quiet, with good light, halfway between Boston and the university." Hadley sat very still. "He's been close. He just didn't want you to know." Hadley drove out to the lake house that night. She had only the address. The driveway was unpaved and went down through pines for a 1/4 mile. Lights on the porch, a small wooden house with a deep porch and a railing the color of weathered nickel. Owen was on the porch with Juno. They were on the floor with a flat piece of cardboard between them, gluing the cut paper walls of a model. The model was of the UVM library. Juno saw her first. She waved with the glue stick. "Miss Hadley, come see. Dad and me are doing the roof next." Hadley stopped at the bottom of the steps. She did not come up. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" she said to Owen. He did not answer for a long time. He set the glue stick down. He looked at her across the porch. "Because if I had told you, you would have come to find me because you felt like you owed me something. I didn't want that. I wanted you to come because you wanted to." Hadley did not answer that out loud. She climbed the 3 steps. She sat down on the porch boards next to Juno. Juno reached into her pocket. She pulled out a small square of folded paper. She put it in Hadley's hand and closed Hadley's fingers around it. "You hold this part. It's the roof of the library. I'm scared I'll lose it." Hadley opened her hand a little. The paper was the size of a credit card, folded twice. She closed her fingers again. "Okay," she said. She stayed on the porch with them until the model had its roof on. 6 weeks later, the foundation of Adirondack headquarters went in. The site was on the north end of a meadow that ran down to the Saranac River, the Adirondack ridgeline in the middle distance. The pour had finished that morning. The forms were stripped. The concrete was still curing dark in the shaded corners. Owen was on site in a flannel shirt and a yellow hard hat, going through rebar layout with the structural lead, a quiet woman from Plattsburgh named Reyes. Hadley drove up in the afternoon in her own car, an old Subaru with a dent in the rear bumper, by herself. No assistant, no firm vehicle. She parked at the end of the gravel access road and walked in. Juno had come with him for the day. She was at the edge of the foundation pour, picking up small flat stones and sorting them by color into 3 neat piles on a board she had pulled from the scrap stack. The 3 of them walked the perimeter together. Owen pointed out where the north face glazing would catch the winter light, where the shadow of the ridge would fall across the lobby at 4 in the afternoon in January, where the timber columns would step down toward the river. Hadley nodded and asked the questions she would have asked anyone, and then a few she wouldn't have. He answered both kinds the same way. They talked about Anna for the first time at any real length. He told her how Anna had been a structural engineer who could not draw a straight line, and how that had been a private joke between them for 9 years. Hadley told him about Henry, 2 years older than her, the one who had taught her to drive on the back roads outside Montpelier when she was 15, and he was already getting headaches. No one yet knew what to call. Same year, again, they walked another full lap of the foundation in silence after that. Owen said, looking out at the ridgeline, that on the day of Anna's funeral he had stood in the back of the church and thought, for no reason he understood at the time, about an old film photograph he had hidden in a drawer in Boston. He had not been able to explain it to himself then. He could now. The sun went down behind the ridge. The crew had gone. The site was quiet. Owen and Hadley sat down on a long steel I-beam laid across 2 sawhorses near the south corner of the foundation. Their shoulders were close. They did not touch. Juno was at the far end of the beam, balancing on it like it was a balance beam. Arms out, the 3 piles of sorted stones lined up behind her. Dad, Miss Hadley, look. They both turned at the same time. They turned in the same direction without checking. A doe and a fawn were crossing the tree line at the north edge of the meadow. They moved slowly, without hurry, the way deer do when they have not yet decided that humans are present. The fawn was small for the season. It paused, ears swiveling, then followed its mother into the second band of trees and was gone. In the wide shot, 3 people, 1 steel beam, 2 deer, a foundation, the ridge. No one spoke. Juno lowered her arms and watched. Hadley felt the side of Owen's coat brush the side of hers when he shifted his weight on the beam, and did not move away. Neither did he. 6 months later, the ribbon cutting for Adirondack headquarters drew the regional press, the board of Northbridge Design, the entire project team, the governor's chief of staff, and 2 reporters from out of state. The building had its name on the front, in clean steel letters. Northbridge Design. No other firm. The north face glazing did what Owen had drawn it to do. The late winter light came in low across the lobby floor and warmed the timber columns at their base. Owen stood at the back of the crowd in a dark coat, hands in his pockets. He did not go up to the stage. Hadley did not ask him to. Once, near the end of her remarks, her eyes found him over the heads of the seated guests, held for 1 beat, and went back to the page. After the speeches and the cut ribbon and the polite applause, Hadley found him in a side room off the lobby that the caterers had not yet reached. She closed the door behind her. The room was quiet enough to hear the heating system. She had a small flat package in her hands, wrapped in brown paper. She set it on the table. For you. You don't have to open it now. He opened it now. Inside, in a plain wooden frame, was a large print of the photograph. 2 students in front of the UVM library. Snow falling sideways. A girl laughing up at a boy. He looked at it for a long time. He ran his thumb along the inside edge of the frame, the way a carpenter checks a joint. He looked at her. You knew I'd kept the original. She nodded once. I guessed. Because I kept it too. He set the frame down on the table, very carefully, picture up. He did not say thank you. He did not need to. The door opened. Juno came running through, hair flying, half a cookie in her hand, the other half clearly already eaten. Miss Hadley, Saturday. You have to come for breakfast. Dad makes pancakes way better than you think he does. Hadley laughed. It was the first time in any of the rooms of this story she had laughed all the way out loud. Owen heard it and looked at the floor for a second, smiling, the way a man smiles when he is not ready to be seen smiling. I'll be there, Hadley said. With real maple syrup, Juno said, very serious. Not the brown kind from the store. With real maple syrup, Hadley agreed. The three of them walked out of the building together, through the lobby, past the new steel letters on the front, into the parking lot, where the cars were already starting to leave. They did not hold hands. They walked at the same pace. Juno was in the middle, the framed picture under Owen's arm, wrapped again in the brown paper. At the edge of the lot, Hadley's old Subaru and Owen's truck were parked 2 spaces apart. She walked him as far as the truck. He walked her as far as the Subaru. Neither of them said goodbye out loud. 15 years ago, a first-year architecture student went into a winter river after a girl he did not know and walked away before she woke up. 15 years later, that same girl walked into a coffee shop on Pine Street to find a laptop she had left behind, and found more than that. Neither of them had been looking. Both of them had been found,